Welcome to Here's How We Get There. It's the daily show filled with conversations about business and mental health in a down-to-earth style with real-world language. Now let's dive in with your co-hosts, Kenneth Shark-Kinney and Trey Tucker.
All right, so Trey, I want to tell you a little bit about a story I know we've spoken about that's been in the news, but it was a really sad example. There was a young man, Michigan teenager, 17 years old, and he committed suicide. Apparently, three Nigerian men were arrested for helping pull off a sextortion scam. Basically, they had enticed this young man, acted like they were a teenage girl, asked him to send explicit photos. Then this person or persons tried to use those photos to blackmail this young man, who apparently was a fantastic young man involved in team sports in his high school, had a lot of friends, good looking kid. And they basically told him they were going to release the photos. He went to his bank account, tried to pay something to get him to stop. They wanted more, and then apparently convinced him as well as he knew that he felt like he had nowhere else to go and didn't want to be abused like that, and committed suicide. And it reminded me as a parent the power of having conversations with your children early. It was just earlier today, after seeing this news story, that I got a text message that very much resembled the kind of bait that they look like to pull you in and start you in these conversations. Now, granted, I've gotten these kind of scams many times before and I delete them. But a lot of people who don't know, and not everybody has gone through this or had that conversation with an adult, knows how bad these predators can be that are on the internet who don't care about you. But I would just say, as a parent, as much as we try to even monitor what our kids are doing on social media and look at everything, sometimes it just takes really having hard conversations with your kids. They aren't easy to have, but in today's world, with as many predators as there are, talk to your children and let them know that they can come to you, and let them also know, I'm sure you'll appreciate this as well as a therapist, if they're having problems and don't feel comfortable talking to the parent because they're embarrassed, get help somewhere. Go to 988, go to 1-800-273-TALK. Talk to a suicide and crisis lifeline person, somebody that can help you. Worst thing you could ever do is commit suicide.
Yeah, this story just infuriates me to no end. And I'll add the therapeutic angle, especially teenagers, because their brain development is such they can really only see what's right in front of them, that it's hard for them to see the bigger picture, both of time and of other factors. So any teen in that situation, faced with that threat of these pictures being made public, the logic just stops working. And so they only see one alternative or one way out. And it's the heartbreaking way out that he saw. But absolutely, you got to have the hard conversations with your kids, and you got to resist the urge to, out of fear, just start throwing on more restrictions to your kid and taking away freedoms just so I'm going to protect them and put them in a bubble so nothing ever happens. Like, they're going to rebel against that. So you got to give them the first conversation, the first exposure to these types of issues. There's a psychological principle called the law of first mention. And that is, whatever we hear mentioned first about a topic is typically what we tend to believe and go with. So as a parent, you got to be proactive about scams like this and say, look, I know this is awkward. This is awkward for me. I know it's going to be awkward for you, but I love you. So here, we're going to talk about it for 90 seconds. Mm-hmm. And if you can make it just kind of as quick and acknowledge the awkwardness as often as you can, then you can actually have some success in a conversation like that. But yeah, it's got to be relationships instead of rules and restrictions.
Well, truth is, this young man probably was just looking for a connection. And it's really sad because it probably wasn't anything more than just an innocent way to meet a young girl he thought was cute. And that happens to people, whether they're young or old, male or female. But ultimately, if you get pulled into that trap, get help somewhere. Never never ever go to that last step that can't be, you can't undo it. So
Isolation is the worst. Do not isolate.
take care, everyone.
Thank you for joining Shark and Trey on the Here's How We Get There show. Make sure to rate, review, and subscribe to the show and visit here'showwegetthere.com. That's here'showwegetthere.com.